Thank you, Israel. Hello, everyone. I will start from a short introduction. My name is Sima Bloch. I joined Primo product team as a product manager a couple of months ago. I've been with Ex Libris for the past 11 years. Before this position, I had the privilege to serve as a product manager for Campus M. So I'm glad to be here and to review together the 2024 Primo and Primo VE roadmap highlights. Before we delve, it's okay. Before we delve into the details, let's review shortly the agenda, what we're going to explore today. We will start from the NDE, the next discovery experience. Israel will guide us through the NDE and its key areas. The key areas of the NDE are new UI, link data, analytics, and AI. Although most of the NDE project is not going to be released during this year, it is important for us to review it, as you will see when we will get to the roadmap that few of the NDE elements are already implemented in this year roadmap. NDE serves as our compass for the illuminating our vision for the Primo of tomorrow. And after Israel will guide us through the NDE and its key areas, we will review together the 2024 roadmap highlights, which will be segmented by the categories that you can see over here on the screen. This is a good opportunity to thank you to the community for the great ideas. You will be able to see during the presentation that many of the enhancements came from the idea exchange and NERS. So thank you for that. And also, this is a good opportunity to thank the Primo working group for being the voice of the customers and assisting us tailoring the product according to the customer's needs. And now over to you, Israel, for the review of the NDE.
Thanks, Sima. So as Sima said, these are the main strategic areas that are kind of the big pillars that we're working on over the next 2 or so years. So again, we'll just run through them. As Sima said, they're not all coming out now, but you will start seeing different elements already in this year. So the new UX, we announced this middle of last year. It's something we're working on now. We're working together with a customer advisory group, so it's members of institutions we're working through different stages of the design phases and then the development phases. We do plan to start exposing some pages later on this year. People can start testing and understanding what it looks like and how they see it meeting their needs and what changes or customizations they might need. But it will be ready for general release in 2025. The next element is the link data experience. Sima is going to talk a lot more about the first phase that is actually coming out already this year within the current UI, and there'll be additional phases in future UI next year as well. User engagement analytics, Sima is going to touch on that a bit later on as well, but a brand new analytics platform. We're going into early adopter mode with a few institutions this year with a bigger roadmap, bigger rollout for that next year. But again, we're expecting quite a few customers to already start working on it this year. And lastly, again, the Discovery AI Research Assistant. So again, we've done a lot of work and a lot of testing throughout last year at the Clarivate level. There were a few things, if you may have heard, coming out as betas on ProQuest and Web of Science, and as a group, we were looking at many directions. Later on this year, we're going to expose the first features coming out again for end users within Primo. Sima, if you can go to the next slide. So just a bit of a taste about a prototype of what the new UI looks like. So again, this is a prototype. We've got a few prototypes which we're working on with the designers and then with the community. So again, you can see a much cleaner approach. Again, room for different elements, allowing the user to actually see at much easier one glance what the record might be about, what type of access they might have. Again, a much cleaner and more trying to think what the most important things are. On the other hand, not crowding the screen too much in the first glance. So again, you'll be seeing more and more of this coming out later this year, again, to go into production next year. And next slide, Tima. The next prototype I want to show you here is the CDI Research Assistant. So again, the look and feel here is really just a prototype we're working on. We're still finalizing a lot of elements here. But the idea here is the ability to be able to ask a question, similar to what users are used to on different AI platforms today, get a generated answer. It will be indicated this was generated by AI. And quoting every article that this material came from. So again, quoting, sourcing this information, and really the main goal of this is to allow the user to then go, once they know they answered their general question, they can actually go to the full text as well. So again, this is the prototype. Again, not necessarily what the look and feel is going to look like, but again, roughly what we're looking at. Again, you'll hear more towards the middle of the year, once we finalize the scope and what it will look like, will be presented to be released later in the year. So these are kind of the big elements, the big things that are guiding us. As I'm sure you know, the new UI is something large, not just the one screen that I showed. And again, you'll be hearing more about this and coming out gradually over the next, all these elements coming out over the next year and into next year. And with that, I'll hand over to Sima to see more of the things that you're actually going to see within this year as part of the roadmap.
Thank you, Israel. And now let's delve into the details of the exciting 2024 roadmap. The first category that we are going to review is the user experience. A few words about the visual indications over the slides. You will see, for example, for the first enhancement, which is the link data, it has the NDE indication. As Israel mentioned, it is considered as part of the NDE project. You will be able to see that there is also an indication for Primo and VE, when the other elements are relevant for Primo VE only. And also there are indications for nurse and ID exchange for the enhancements that came from the nurse and ID exchange. Okay, so for let's go to the first enhancement, the person entity, as part of the link data approach. We created a dedicated new entity that is going to accompany the whole user journey, and we will review it shortly. The next enhancement is about a new bulk option, which will export the whole list of bibliographic records. Until now, we had a limitation of 50 records to be exported at a time, and now we will be able to export all the records. Also, under the user experience is the get it behavior when there is only one location. Currently, there is a specific behavior when there is all items belong to the same location, and we are going to add configuration in order to enhance it and to allow you to change this behavior. And the last enhancement is a dedicated interface that we are going to add in order to allow both the patron and the librarian to search and discover authorities. It will be beneficial for the librarian to explore and to work on authorities, to see different institutions' authorities, for example. And for the patron, it can be beneficial for educational reasons, for example, to explore specific subjects, to see the records that are linked to this subject. And now to the person entity. We created a dedicated person entity that is going to accompany the patron throughout the user journey. It will be part of the autocomplete, of course, as part of a dedicated configuration. As part of the autocomplete, we will see shortly how suggestions of persons are being displayed. Also, in the full display, there will be suggestions of persons, of linked persons to this record, and there will be a dedicated person page with the whole information about the person. It is important to note that it is not limited to a specific format. It is relevant for the whole mark family and BibFrame. The person entity is based on the Library of Congress data and being enriched with Wikidata. Over here, I started typing Einstein and I got those two suggestions. When I can see that those suggestions include short description about the person, the relevant years, an image. And when I click on one of the suggestions, I'm getting to the person page. In the person page, I see the information about the person and relationships that are relevant for this particular person. The relationships will include title written by, as you can see over here, and title written about, and also related persons, which is not included in this screen. Another flow of the person entity is in the full record page. Once I'm getting to the full record page, I'm getting suggestions for the relevant persons that are related to this bibliographic record. I can see that it can be also considered as author, creator, or subject. Sorry. So just to summarize, we believe that this person entity will allow more relevant information to be passed to the user. And now to the next enhancement. As I mentioned, we had a limitation previously in the area of the bulk export. We were limited to up to 50 records to be exported to one of the formats. It can be either RIS, BibTeX, CSV. During the years, we heard a lot of feedback from our customers that the export is quite efficient for the patron. It allows the patron to integrate the bibliographic information into the tools and workflows that are relevant to the patrons. That's why we're going to work on this year on an export that will be invoked in the background and allow the user to continue and work in Primo while the process is running in parallel. And this is the new option that you can see over here. This is, of course, a conceptual mock-up. This is going to be released during this year. Also under user experience is the get it behavior in case of single location. Until now, until February release, when there was only one location, meaning when all items belonged to the same location, we wanted to save the patron some time and assist him avoiding the location. However, we got feedback from customers that, especially from consortium customers, but not only, that they would like to provide the same experience to the patron as the patron has when there is more than one location. That's why we added a dedicated configuration where the administrator will be able to define what will be the behavior of the get it in case of single location. Okay, we covered the user experience category, and now we are moving on to the next category. I know that this is a lot of content, so feel free to type your questions in the Q&A and we will address them at the end. And now to the library empowerment section, category. As part of our ongoing efforts to empower libraries, we added the following enhancements. The first one was already released in February, the Showcase Carousel tool. There are a lot of questions and ideas and inquiries about it. We saw in the list, also in Salesforce cases, which is great. We are really happy to see that this is useful to our community. We will review it shortly. The next enhancement is allowing HTML tags in labels. We worked closely with the Primo working group in order to compose a closed list of labels where formatting will be optional. Another enhancement is in the area of collection discovery. Currently, the collection discovery is being managed in Alma, and we wanted to allow also the addition for CDI and external resources. As this is managed in Alma, only local records can be added. So during this year, we are going to add in Primo the capability to work on the collection discovery easily, in intuitive way, and to add also local records as currently possible, but CDI and external resources as well. And the last enhancement is in the area of the CDI scopes. Until now, it was possible to include resource types, up to 5 resource types. And from now on, it will be possible also to exclude resource types. For example, an administrator can create a scope when they will include, for example, dissertation and thesis, and another scope where they will exclude book and book chapters, for example. And now let's go to the Showcase Carousel tool. So this great feature was already released in February release. The Showcase Carousel tool is a visual carousel of items that can enable you to market your resources on websites, on any external website, such as faculty or university site. It can help you to promote your unique or new content and, of course, encourage exploration and traffic from the external site to the library. Let's see a live example. One second. Over here, we can see. Okay. Sorry. Okay, it takes some time, so we'll ignore the live example. We can see over here a mock-up, a screenshot of the carousel. The carousel consists of 10 records that behind those records stands a basic query in Primo that includes pre-filters, conditions, facets, like any query. And it can be quite flexible. It will include, of course, the results that are being retrieved at the time when the patron clicks on the carousel. So you can already play with it. There are already live carousels in customers' sites. The next enhancement is adding HTML tags in labels. As I mentioned, we work closely with the Primo working group in order to decide which labels will be included in this enhancement. You can see the full list, of course, in the documentation. However, I will mention over here in the screen, we see the disclaimer label where I added a link, a URL to the label. And you can also add a formatting, for example, to the error messages and more labels. This is the first stage. It is important to note what we released in February was the first stage, and we will have another phase in the next half of the year. As I mentioned, collection discovery is currently manageable in Alma. We want to add also an option to administrator to work on it in Primo and to be able to add CDI and external resources. It's going to be quick, simple, and intuitive to work on the collection. We covered the library empowerment, and now we are moving on to the search and ranking. In the area of search and ranking, we have the following enhancements. The first one is quite regional for the German region. Many German customers are working with the 689 mark field to store the subject. From now, during this year, we are going to add it as a standard 600 field, and then the patrons will be able to view and search the subjects that are cataloged in this field. Another regional requirement is the Melingo add-on in Arabic. During this year, we are going to implement Melingo Arabic plugin in order to allow better linguistic search capabilities. And of course, as data keep evolving and growing all the time, we keep changing and adding tweaks to the data, both local and CDI, on an ongoing basis. I'm moving on to this CDI quality and rights processing improvement category. Amy is the product manager for CDI, but unfortunately she couldn't be here because it's midnight her time. So I'm going to cover this area on behalf of Amy. Amy will be more than happy to answer any relevant question in this area. The first enhancement is the CDI headings normalization and augmentation. Big part of this enhancement was already implemented in February release. We worked during the last year on the normalization, on creating a control vocabulary of normalized subjects that are coming from content providers. And I will explain shortly what will be the behavior after this enhancement. The next enhancement is about preventing search expansion when exact phrase is used. This one is quite straightforward. For example, when I search for Niagara Falls, I'm getting also the results for the plural version for falls and not only for Niagara Falls. We will work on fine-tune the exact phrase search in order to prevent this expansion. The next enhancement is supporting special linking parameters from ALMA and SFX. There are content providers like Gale and ProQuest that require special linking parameter in order to identify the library accounts. Until now, it was done with a workaround, and this setup will not be changed after the release of this enhancement for the customers that are already using it. But for customers that didn't do the workaround, those linking parameters you set up in ALMA will be automatically published to CDI. And in the first phase, we will be rolling it for, it will be rolled out for Gale and ProQuest. The next enhancement is improving book review and identification. Currently, we are aware, following your great feedback, that sometimes book review are miscategorized as articles, as article content type. It can confuse the customer when searching, it can change the facets and ranking accordingly. And we are going to adjust the rules and to make the categorization of the book review more precisely. The last enhancement, identify methods for distinguishing in-press content. We acknowledge that the in-press content, which is the content that is in process of being published, sometimes leads to broken links and cause user frustration. We plan to identify those in-press content records and to have special handling of those records. And now to the subject normalization of the subjects that are coming from CDI content providers. As I mentioned, we created a control vocabulary of subjects. The reason why we did it is because during the years, we heard a lot of feedback from customers about the noise and duplications of subjects returned from vendors. In order to avoid this duplication, we created a normalized list of subjects, and with a configuration. Of course, you need to configure it in order to make it work, and you can also easily test it before going live with it with the URL that you can see here in the bottom. Every subject that is coming from CDI provider is going to be checked against this control vocabulary of subjects. If a match is being found, the subject will be included in the subjects section. If a match is not found, this subject will be included in the keywords section, when it is important to note that the keyword section is being indexed and, of course, searchable. The first iteration focused on English vocabularies, and we will be looking into more vocabularies in the future. As we open this feature before February for testing, we already got great feedback from the community, and that's why we decided to augment the subjects with also personal, or in addition to the topical subjects that were included in February, we decided to include also personal and geographic name headings, and it will be released during this year, in the first half of the year. We covered the CDI category, and now we are moving on to the consortium. Many of our customers are part of consortium institutions, and consortia has unique requirement. As usually, the consortia would like to manage a lot of configuration by the central office in the network zone. In order to ease on the work of the central office, we have a joint effort with ALMA to work on a plan. We are currently already in discussions with the consortia focus group, and to decide which configuration will be inherited from the network zone to the institution zone. Few ideas that came up are, for example, distribution of labels by line, distribution of specific view elements. This is in discussion with the focus group, and we will finalize it during the year, and we will work on it. The next enhancement under the same category is the consent message that is being displayed to patrons that would like to request an item from another institution of the fulfillment network. It is done mainly for security matters. It was released in February, and before that, when a patron wanted to request an item from another institution, behind the scenes, the patron's information was shared with the other institution. The reason for the sharing of their personal information is to calculate the terms of use and policies behind the scenes, to define the request conditions, etc. So starting from February, the patron will be getting a consent message to inform the patron that their personal information is being shared. In the area of accessibility, during the last year, we published VPAT in order to comply to 2.1 WCAG level. During this year, we are happy to announce that we plan to have another audit and accordingly a VPAT that will be published in the Knowledge Center in order to comply to the latest version of the WCAG, which is 2.2, and we will comply to AA level. In parallel, we are getting a great feedback from the community in the area of the accessibility, and we keep fixing and enhancing the existing UI with accessibility items. Now we are moving on to the exciting news in the analytics area. As Israel mentioned, we are going to have new user engagement analytics section feature implemented as part of the NDE. In the new UI of the NDE, the new analytics, the mix panel will replace the existing OBI capabilities. However, we wanted to provide you with great insights about your patrons already at this stage on the existing UI and not wait until the NDE release. That's why we created a specific scope of the user engagement analytics, which will be released already on the existing UI. And let's take a look. Over here, you can see few dashboards that you will be able to work with. During the year, as Israel mentioned, we will work with the focus group and with early adapters that would like to use this part of the mixed panel feature in Primo. And why we are doing it? OBI was great. However, it provided an aggregation of actions, and you had to conclude from these actions about your user journey. And we wanted to provide you with a sequence of actions in order to make it more intuitive and easy to conclude about your patrons, about their user journey, about their success and failure. And over here, you can see in the example where, for example, you can see the user journey starting from the beginning of the session throughout the search, full display, and until the patron is getting to the get it request. You will be able to see the relation between those actions, what happened on the way, how many drop-offs existed. You will be able to conclude about the user journey. You will be able also to conclude about your changes, for example, in the UI, even if you're just changing a label. Let's take the download PDF in the view it. If you change, for example, the color of this label, and you will be able, you would like to see how it impacted the users and their user journey, you will be able to see it with the new capabilities of analytics. You will be able also to conclude about the traffic, how patrons got into the Primo pages, and maybe change things accordingly. We hope that these great insights will increase the user engagement of the libraries once you will be provided with the right insights. We covered the 2024 highlights. You will be able to find them more in depth in the Knowledge Center, both for Primo and Primo VE. And now we are getting to the Q&A section. I will start with the questions. Second. Okay, Rel, would you like?
Yes, would you like me to read out? We'll start from the top.
Sure.
The first question we have is, will the NDE, the Next Discovery Experience, be available for classic back office customers?
Okay, that's a good question. We decided that the NDE will be part of the Primo VE and not for Primo. And I can explain why, because we invested a lot in the technology, and we analyzed the number of customers here and number of customers in the Primo Classic, and we decided that it made sense to embed it in Primo VE at this stage and not in Primo.
I'll just add that specifically for the CBI AI assistant, that is something that we're still looking at. Again, like I said, we're still looking at where it's going to live and how it's going to be from the UI perspective. So that is an element that we're checking if it would be coming to Primo. But as Sima said, the new UI and the linked data elements are only going to be in VE.
Thank you. Next question is, will the Discovery AI Assistant provide proxied links for subscribed content?
Israel, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. The goal is yes. I think the first stage might be only accessing to open access materials because it's easier to start that way. But if we go the full content and cite articles, then we will definitely want to be able to give you access to those articles, whether it will be linking to those articles within Primo, and then Primo will allow that proxying to the full text. This is something that we're still in design phases for.
Thank you. Will there be opportunities for customers to test and provide feedback on the AI research assistant before it's rolled out?
So first thing, the answer is yes. We will be opening this up to customers at some stage. I don't know exactly to say in what environment and the capacity. That is one element. And the other element is that even once it does come out, sites will be able to test it and play around with it and decide if to open it up to their customers, to their end users as well.
Okay. There's a request here. I'm not sure if you have this offhand, but if you can please show a record view of the new UI.
Actually, we are during the design phase, and what we are doing right now is the Get It section as part of the full record page. We are working on it. We actually have, it's a good opportunity to share that we have a focus group where we are sharing our designs and brainstorming. We can decide, maybe we can share somehow also with additional.
I think once we go through the focus group, it's something that definitely we will start sharing. I think specifically this we haven't really gotten to the person page yet. We had very initial high level design for that, but it's not something that we've done. It was still in the traditional pages, I think, of Primo.
Okay. There's also another question about timelines, when the CGI Research Assistant will be rolled out or visible in Primo VE.
So the plan is to have at least the first phase of this towards the end of the year, so probably around Q4.
Okay. If an author does not have an LC authority record, but is in Wikidata, will they show up in this feature?
No, they won't. The backbone is LC, and then we enrich that LC with additional information. So this phase is, like Sima said, is limited to LC as the initial names, and then adding more information once we actually go into that page.
All right, this is, I think, a slightly specific question, but will we be able to populate person pages with local sources? For example, our own staff profile for a resource authored by a member of our staff.
Not at this stage, not initially, no.
And regarding person entity linked data, is that coming only with the NDE or earlier?
Sorry?
So for the person entity in linked data, is that coming only with NDE or?
Okay. So that's a good question. No. As we mentioned, there are few elements of the NDE that are coming much earlier, and the person page is one of them. If I'm not mistaken, inside it's May, right? We are releasing it, the person entity
on the current UI. Just to help a second with terminology, and it is confusing, and is ND is if you remember the first slide that I showed, ND is kind of these four elements, and they don't necessarily all come out at once. We have in the NDE, one of the blocks is the new UI, which is going into, will be released in 25. But in the realm of NDE, we have the link data and the person page, and like Sima said, that's coming out already now on the current UI. It will also be with more features in the next UI as well. And also same goes to the AI assistant. That will be coming out in the current UI. But again, it's a futuristic feature, so it's under this umbrella of the next discovery experience. But it's an element that will also be coming out now as well.
There's definitely a lot of interest about the person page. So I'm also trying to kind of put those together. So in the full record, will the person entities only be connected to subject and creator, or also to contributors?
It's more than that, and I think, Sima, I don't remember in your example, the full record page you showed person who was the subject and he was also the creator. So basically any person entity that we can pull out, right? So Shakespeare here happens to be the subject. So any person entity that we can pull out we would want to show the element. So it's not limited to only the creator.
Thank you. And I think this might be the last one about the person page. So how frequently is the person page data updated? Is it a live pull from Wikidata, or is it a static data that is periodically refreshed by Ex Libris? And if so, how often? For people who are currently alive and in the news, the data could become outdated quickly.
I believe that we get a weekly update for this. This is the plan.
And the reason for not doing it live is performance-wise. We don't want to call so many queries in every page in every full page that is being open, and for autocomplete.
I think that's a good point, Simon. It's worth noting that those of you who remember, we not the person page, but we already last year tried or said we're going to be coming out with the info card that Simon actually has on the screen now. We had this planned for last year in May and August, and we had this planned in the perhaps naive method of going out when we need it out to the APIs of Library of Congress, of Wikidata, of other elements as well. And while that is the promise of linked data, it didn't work in large numbers. Perhaps there are some sites, and I know that some sites did this with customization and added their own info cards, and that might be fine. But when we come out and we're going to have thousands of customers turning this on, and they have thousands of users, it just didn't work. The performance was too slow. The systems on the other side that need to receive these API calls, it was too heavy. So we've turned this around, and as Sima explained, we're building the infrastructure and getting these dumps and building it here. We're still calling out live to some elements, like we're not holding these images that you see on the screen and some of the short descriptions in the autocomplete. We're running out and calling as we need them. But the bulk of the data is data that again, in order to make this work on big scale, we had to hold and pull those from the sources and hold it on our side.
Great. So I found another question about the person entity. It was a question of whether it has a large enough knowledge base to search for someone born with one name, but who uses another. And we have an example of the actor Albert Brooks, who was named Albert Einstein, very interesting, at birth. And if you asked for the actor that was born with the name Albert Einstein, would also provide the name Albert Brooks as an option?
So one thing, this phase when we don't have a person search, that is something that we're potentially looking at for additional phases. At this phase, you're not searching for a person, except for that autocomplete that Sima showed, and that will only be showing two. We're selecting only two results to show in that autocomplete. So if again the information from Wikidata of Library of Congress has this information, we would potentially be displaying it on the page, but it's not a full-blown person search. Yes, if you search for a non-preferred, we index the preferred if it's connected to authorities, but that's again for finding the BIB records that the non-preferred wrote. Again, we'll have to check if we also index these non-preferred terms for the autocomplete, but again, that will probably only come into play when we expose a full-blown person search.
Okay, so moving on to another topic, there's just a comment here about bulk export that should include call numbers. It's just a comment. The next one is about the showcase carousel that seems to have issues of accessibility. I think I saw that this will be included on the roadmap. Is there an estimated timeline for these upgrades?
Yeah, we got feedback from customers, and we'll be analyzing the accessibility of the showcase carousel to see where exactly it stands. We will update in the list. We saw a few inquiries about it. We are checking it, And once we'll have the answers or plans to adjust or to change, we'll communicate.
Okay, so another one about the carousel is the textual information below the cover is by default the publisher information. Is it possible to replace that in a specific carousel with the creator or another field?
Yeah, so this one we saw also on the list of Primo customers. So thank you for this question. We started checking it. We checked with the developer that developed this feature, and this should be changed. We will need to. It's a change. We thought maybe that it will be just a trick to do some changes in the JavaScript, but no, we will need to enhance the carousel to either configuration. We'll need to decide how to do it. But this one will communicate also on the list once we have the final answer.
I just add that there are other than the straightforward taking another field, is different questions about what happens if there's multiple authors, what happens if there's 5 authors or more authors. Again, do we only take one? Do we not write anything? So I think there's some questions here beyond just changing the field that we take from.
Thank you. And I believe we're moving on to another topic. What is the use case for adding external content to collections? Not certain about the context.
Do you have maybe a good use case for that?
So this is actually an idea exchange. So those of you who want to read up about the ideas or ask the people that wrote the idea, from our discussions with some sites is that they have a collection discovery that is about a certain topic, pictures or texts about a certain site or about a certain area, and what they hold within their Alma tells a certain story, but there's more elements that they have loaded from their local repository into Primo that complement that. There might be articles about that area or that topic that are in CDI that complement it. And the request was, if we're showing now this collection that people navigate that talks about the topic or a place or whatever relevant, we have more information that we have in Primo, kind of in the search results, that can complement it, and we want to add that in as well. So by selecting these records and adding them, even though they're not managed in Alma, we can actually expose to the end user a larger context of what we're trying to expose.
All right, can the field keywords also be used for local records?
As far as I'm aware, that's specific.
I don't think so. Yeah, it's actually a good idea, but I don't think that is available today.
All right, so we have a couple now on the CDI subject normalization. So the first one is the subjects are no longer in alphabetical order. Is that expected behavior?
We'd have to check that. We'll follow up in the case.
Yeah, they opened up a support case, so we can follow up.
Yeah, so that will probably get to us and we'll answer there.
Okay, so the next one we have is for the subject heading normalization process. They noted this also on the list. It's putting the LCSH subdivisions that are not free floating in the keyword section instead of in the subject section. The documentation incorrectly claims these subheadings are not valid, but they are. How does Ex Libris plan to address this problem? We were told the previous webinar that more information would be provided via email. We've not yet received this information. So
I see you can also go to the next one, which I think is related as well, Roland.
Sure, happy to read that one as well. I'm concerned about the.
We could just summarize it.
Yeah, sure.
I think that again, both questions are dealing with the complex and often nested, subjects that we get or that exist out there, and we're getting them not necessarily in mark, but we get them in whatever formats from
the different data suppliers. It's a complex, I don't know if to say edge case, but it's something that we're looking at. There might be some better explanation that we need to do in the documentation, and there might be more work that we need to do to kind of either break these up more cleanly or not break them up at all, and see how we match on them. So again, this is something that yes, we will want to announce some more information once we have it to the list, and it might be also some errors in the documentation or in explaining better what we do. So both of these are, we'll take these and continue with them.
Okay, thank you. We do have two OBI questions. One is just a clarification. What exactly is OBI? And then the second one is whether that will be sunsetted in the future.
Yeah, so OBI is the insight analytics that you currently have. And if we have a plan to sunset the Primo analytics, we do plan in the NDE new UI to replace the existing analytics feature with the mixed panel that we reviewed together, because we see that it can provide the customers with better insights about the patrons.
Thank you.
I'll just add that again, the OBI is kind of just the product acronym. It's the Oracle Business Platform. Like Sima said, from the new UI onwards, we will no longer be sending to that platform. That platform still exists, and those who use Alma will still use it. The new solution that we have in Primo is for user actions. It's not for things that happen on the database and different the day-to-day or many of the day-to-day Alma side analytics are more fit for that platform. So that platform will still exist. Again, sites that want to see their historic data, we're not shutting it down, at least not in the near future. But the new UI is only going to be talking with the new system, which, like Sima said, will give a lot more information about what our users are doing and what's happening there.
Okay. Will there continue to be a browse option in the new UI?
Yes, we're not planning to remove or replace the browse option.
We have another person entity question. Can the linked data person entity be turned on for the full record only?
So not the autocomplete, you mean?
Yeah, just turn it on for the to split the behavior into two. We can forward this enhancement, I think.
I believe it's already coming out like this.
Yeah,
we'll have more information in May when it comes out about what configuration is, but I believe that I know there are sites today that don't have autocomplete at all, so they can have only this new autocomplete element, and sites that don't want it at all can choose to only expose. Again, the person page will exist, but it will be the person page which you can get to from the autocomplete, or the person page and you can get to it only from the full record, or both. I believe that is what is coming out, but we can double check that.
So regarding the discovery research AI, is our data ever out of our possession? For example, will our data be used to develop or train the LLM? And LLM is the large language machine, I think?
Model. So two things. First thing, we're not giving any, in general, we're not giving any data to be trained. These large language models are already trained on huge amounts of material. They know what they know, and they keep evolving. The way we work in general, I mean, in all the things that we're doing, is that we use whatever vendor. Again, we're looking at multiple vendors, we're working with multiple vendors. We ask them the question, but tell them only answer based on this set of data, which is our data, the data that we're looking at. So that's just in general about training the data. What we're looking about is specifically CDI data. So we're not talking about any local materials, any of your precious materials. What we're talking about is having a research discovery assistant over the CDI materials and exposing this to our users, at least as part of this phase.
Will users need to be logged in to use the AI research assistant?
That's a very good question. I don't think we know the answer to that yet. And just to kind of put a bit more into that context, what exactly the model is going to be, and yes, these things cost money in the end to pay these LLMs. The price is going down lower and lower, but it's still, there's a cost. I think those of you who are following ChatGPT 3.5 just lowered their prices by about 50% a few weeks ago. The difference between ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 is about times 20. But again, in 6 months' time, I'm sure everything's going to be lower. But there is costs involved. So whether we want anyone to be able to do that or only signed-in users is actually a very good question, which we're definitely going to be talking about and addressing. I don't think we have the finalized answer yet.
And since you mentioned ChatGPT, that was another question that came up here, whether we are using ChatGPT in the discovery.
So we haven't finalized what the LLM supplier is going to be yet. I can tell you now that we're working with multiple within Clarivate and our department. We're working with a company called AI21. We're working with OpenAI. We're working on multiple models. And again, in the end, one of them will be selected for our specific feature in Primo.
All right, so we only have a couple more minutes left, so I'm going to combine two questions that are also about the linked data and the person entity. So one is whether the items can be, the creators can be selectively implemented. So you can decide which creators are selected by the library. And the second part is whether, how configurable things will be and if you can be suppressing data and content.
Okay, so we'll start with the selectively implemented the linked data for particular creators. At first phase, no, it will be all or nothing. We will be looking into enhancing it in the future. So following your feedback, we can consider it definitely. How configurable is the person entity info card? Israel, are you aware of the different configuration that's funny?
At this stage, it's all or nothing. Perhaps with customization, you might be able to hide some elements, but at this stage, it's an all or nothing.
Okay, so thank you very much, Seema and Israel. We are at the top of the hour. There is a recording of this session. We also do have all of your questions that were popped into the Q&A. Anything that was not yet addressed, the team here will get back to you. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.